telling people don't visit because we don't think we can keep you safe right now. And that's just sad to say.
We talk about health issues, the consequences to using these products when we talk about tobacco, when we talk about alcohol, marijuana, inhalants, some of these other drugs. We talk about all the health issues and the consequences, right? And the legal issues.
A lot of you who follow my channel already know that I hail from the Los Angeles area. And there are also a lot of people from the Los Angeles area itself that have spoken to great length about the gangs in the police department. There is an entire database of Los Angeles sheriff deputy gangs, and they range from all kinds of names and cliques, from 3,000 Boys, the Executioners, the Little Devils, Linwood Vikings, Banditos, the Grim Reapers. You get the idea. These are gangs, the same kind of gangs that they would teach you about in the DARE program. I know this feels like it's off topic, but this is relevant because DARE was created by the LAPD in 1983 as a response to try to get kids to not abuse drugs, or at least that was its stated intent. Because according to the Washington Post, the program drew bipartisan praise and spread like wildfire. Politicians realized that by supporting DARE, they could paint themselves as pro-cops and pro-kids. A win-win. President Ronald Reagan proclaimed the first National DARE Day in 1988, a tradition that continued well into the Obama administration. As adults, we now know and are very cognizant of the fact that the DARE program was not effective even remotely in this particular goal of getting kids off of drugs. According to the National Institute of Drug Abuse, a study involving 31 schools indicated that there are no statistically significant differences between experimental groups, those participating in the DARE program, and controlled groups in the percentage of new users of cigarettes, smokeless tobacco, alcohol, or marijuana. Arguably, drug abuse is a serious problem in the United States empire. I think any reasonable and sensible person would agree that people of all ages deserve to have resources to not only be educated on what drugs are and the effects of drugs, but those same exact resources should be used to help people get off of drugs. But a reality check would tell us all that the DARE program did not do that, and it would not do that. Because as the Washington Post said, the DARE program was smoke and mirrors for politicians to be rendered electable during their campaigns. During the Trump presidency, Jeff Sessions attended a conference of the DARE program, which is still around today, where he cited that the DARE program became fundamental to their success by educating children to the dangers of drug use, and that he believes that the DARE program in the last 40-something years saved lives. If this was still the 1980s and Jeff Sessions had made this remark, at least on a mainstream level, he would have gotten away with it without any scrutiny. Perhaps we should talk about the war on drugs and how the war on drugs not only helped politicians and did quite the opposite of what its stated intent was. Burgeoning under Richard Nixon and thus continuing into the Reagan administration, the war on drugs was a business decision meant to serve the plutocratic hegemony of the US empire. A plutocracy is a government run by the rich in the interest of the rich. There is a profit incentive to the rich militarizing the police, especially with the help of the state. In our society, the police have a largely unspoken role that they play, because they serve those who own capital. There is no legal incentive for the police to serve the people, let alone protect the people. It is an old-fashioned, drunken narrative that the police serve and protect the people on a grand scale. For those who do not own capital, and for those who are largely marginalized in our capitalist system, that fictional narrative that the police will be there to save you if you are ever in trouble in case of an emergency is a largely fictional one that you have to buy. You have to purchase that fiction. And if you have enough capital to be able to warrant the police defending your ass, then you are already largely privileged as opposed to those who absolutely and desperately need justice to be served. In her book, Are Prisons Obsolete? By Angela Davis, who is a prison abolitionist and former Black Panther activist, she writes, since the 1980s, the prison system has become increasingly ensconced in the economic, political, and ideological life of the United States, and the transnational trafficking in U.S. commodities, culture, and ideas. Thus, the prison industrial complex is much more than the sum of all the jails and prisons in this country. It is a set of symbiotic relationships among correctional communities, transnational corporations, media conglomerates, guards unions, and legislative and court agendas. This is also what we mean when we say all cops are bastards. Every law enforcement activity, whether it be on or off duty, is largely in the interest of reaction or maintaining the status quo. If we are able to identify the status quo as the existing state of affairs, especially in regards to social or political issues, and thus reaction would be the maintenance of the way things are currently, then we can more closely identify the role and the functionality of the police industrial complex. Between the 1960s and the 1980s, we can observe that every single year there has been an increase in police funding, that policing has thus become an industry.
Good evening, everyone. At approximately 7 p.m. this evening, at the Compton terminal of the Blue Line, the MTA Blue Line, there was two deputies who were ambushed.
In a cowardly fashion.
They were both critically injured, multiple gunshot wounds. They are currently being treated for at the hospital. So I want everyone to have a prayer for them, for their recovery.
Do not block emergency entries and exits to the hospital. People's lives are at stake when ambulances can't get through.
Actually, the protesters weren't really blocking the entrance, they were peacefully protesting. As you can see here, they were unarmed and the police were literally pointing their weapons at the protesters. The NPR reporter who reported this, Josie Wong, recorded the officers following people down the street, making some arrests, and the officers proceeded to arrest her even though she identified herself and her journalist credentials. The LA County Sheriff proceeded to lie about this on a tweet, claiming that she did not have journalistic or proper press credentials. The police is currently on a fucking manhunt for this individual who shot the police officers. Clearly this man shot the police for no reason at all. It's not like the police deserve.
Now to more on an Eyewitness News investigation, the alleged sheriff's deputy gang that has branded its members the Executioners. Today, city leaders in Compton say they're fed up. They're calling for a federal investigation. And as Carlos Granda reports, the mayor of Compton herself is speaking out about her own harrowing experience.
They terrorize the community and then they cover their tracks. It is unacceptable.
Is the Compton Sheriff Station being run by the Executioners, a gang of rogue deputies with matching tattoos? Sheriff Alex Villanueva denied it last week, but today Compton's own mayor, Asia Brown, shared her own experience being pulled over by Compton deputies in June of last year.
And I rolled the window down and asked why was I being pulled over. Within seconds, almost 7 to 9 sheriff's deputy vehicles descended upon the scene. They ordered me out of my vehicle and they asked me to put my hands on top of the police vehicle so they can search me as if I were a criminal. Mind you, I was accompanied by my husband and my infant daughter in the back seat. I do not look like someone that is trafficking drugs. I was in my family's family vehicle.
Her baby crying, her husband and car search for drugs. Asia Brown says deputies let her go after they realized she is the mayor. But even after filing a complaint, Mayor Brown says she's received no satisfactory answers from the Sheriff's Department.
It's unacceptable. We will send a clear message to the LA County Sheriff's Department that you clean your house. You get your house in order, or we will surely help you do that. You have executioners, you have gangs in your own house.
News of the executioners came to light last week in a claim filed by Compton deputy Art Gonzalez. He says executioner deputies at the Compton Patrol Station celebrate shootings with tattoo parties, set illegal arrest quotas, and retaliated when he tried to blow the whistle. Compton community members say that sadly this is nothing new. Derek Cooper was arrested by Compton deputies last fall in front of the kids he leads in a youth academy.
I don't even know what I'm being arrested for. I was shipped in a bus down to, the county jail. I was so humiliated to be locked in a shower butt naked with over 200 men waiting to be processed.
Later. A search warrant turns to shots fired at deadly deputy-involved shooting in Compton in the early morning hours. Investigators are providing some answers about what happened.
KCAL 9's Candace Crone has the latest developments in the case.
I just heard the helicopters flying this morning.
Just woke up, saw lights, and was like, Went outside, heard a couple gunshots, went back inside.
Neighbors described a chaotic morning on Bradfield Avenue in Compton after LA County Sheriff deputies exchanged gunfire with the suspect around 5:30 a.m.
Later.
We have developing news that we begin with. A suspect has died after a deputy-involved shooting in Compton, but he may have turned the gun on himself. This happened after they got a call about a possible shooting. CBS 2's Tina Patel is live at the scene with more. Tina, good morning.
Good morning. Well, there's been a very big response to this shooting. You can see that by the number of people that have been here at this command post set up by investigators. They are not releasing many details, only saying that this shooting happened when they were trying to serve a search warrant this morning. Several blocks of a Compton neighborhood have been taped off this morning, and from our chopper we can see what appears to be the body of a man lying face down in the driveway of a home. But sheriff's deputies are not saying who the man is or the circumstances that led to his death. All they've confirmed is that deputies opened fire on a man early this morning.
We've investigated ourselves and cleared ourselves of any wrongdoing.
The sheriff, who has the word villain in his name, doesn't want to be referred to as a deputy gang member. Well, sorry bitch, but you deserve to be confronted like you brainwashed children in the DARE program to confront gang members. People in the community, especially children, deserve to be safe from your fucking kind. I shit on your so-called blue lives. This little swine is so shady that he actually called out the families of those that his fucking gang shot, including Anthony Vargas, doxing them in the process while they are trying to grieve and seek justice. And most importantly, Anthony Vargas' aunt showed up in person to have a fucking say in this matter.
And he gets his throne and we get ours.
You doxed my family yesterday for 40 minutes. I'm
me?
Anthony Vargas, Alex.
I don't think that's me.
He's not talking to you. You doxed a minor. The image that you put on the camera was with a minor. She was 14 years old. You doxed him. You want to talk about mental health? What about the PTSD?
I need you to back up. Back up. Back up. Give us room. Give us room. Give us room. Give us room.
Don't touch her. Don't touch her.
Give us room.
Bro, why are you getting up on me?
I'm telling you to give us room. Get that out of my face. Back up over there, or you'll be asked to leave. Back up or you'll be asked to leave. Do you understand? Sit down, or you'll both be asked to leave. Do you understand that? Be respectful of the guests. Then sit down. Sit down, or you're gonna leave.
You don't need to talk to her like
All right, time to go. Let's go. Time to go. You don't want to listen to orders. It's time to go. Both of you, let's go. Time to go.
No, I haven't done anything.
You're not listening to our orders. It's time to go.
Then back off and I'll watch.
What? Go ahead.
But back up.
I'm back. Go ahead.
Back up some more. I don't want to
Go ahead. I'm not going. Time to go. Time to go. Let's go. Time to go. Let's go, Ricky. Time to go. I'm asking you to leave. Pull your fucking...
Alex, you're a fucking punk, bro. You're a punk. Show us your fucking tats. Google LASD gangs. You talk all that shit on Instagram Live. Talk all that shit on Instagram Live. You can't say shit in person, bro. Can't say shit in person. Fuck you, Alex. Fuck you, stupid ass.
Time to go.
Google LASD gangs. Justice for Anthony Vargas. Justice for Paul Graham. Justice for Anthony Vargas. Justice for Paul Graham. Google LASD gang!
Hey, get off the property.
Fuck you, Alex! Fuck you!
Alex the villain is a member of the Bandidos gang, a gang that is a member of the LASD gang. He is the head of the LA Sheriff's Department. One thing that was taught to me in the DARE program by Officer Turpin of Burbank Police Department was that gangs like to have tattoo parties. In addition, they also like to wear matching colors and symbols that represent their gang. This is exactly what the Bandidos do, as well as the Executioners, 3,000 Boys, and such and so forth. With these gangs and their tattoo parties, they don't just get matching tattoos. They do so when there are shootings, and they encourage these shootings.
Ladies, an outburst. They're upset that they were outed on Tuesday. Actually, no, today's Thursday, Wednesday, because they filed a fake claim against the county alleging that we harassed them. And here's another one right here.
That was my little nephew. You're saying that all the claims we filed with your department went nowhere? We filed claims with the sheriff's department. Where the fuck are those videos at?
In North Korea.
Don't touch her. You don't want to get out.
Why in the hell are they cheering? Have they ever gotten their children shot by a fucking gang member in the police? Who are they supposed to call when the police is the gangbanger? When the police are the ones who are murdering your children? Honey, if the police are unpopular, especially in the community where you have a small ass crowd cheering you on for your little Blue Lives Matter conference, then maybe you're doing something wrong. Maybe your interests are myopic and narrow-minded. And maybe, just maybe perhaps, that your service, quote unquote, does not serve the people. And it is utterly fucking goddamn useless. It is useful primarily for the state. There are too many cases, far too many cases, of law enforcement killing and murdering young people, especially in the community. Law enforcement do not maintain peace. There is no justice to be had when they are the criminals, when they are the rise in crime that they are trying to propagate.
What are the benefits of joining the gang?
The benefits will be like any other street gang. You know, it's power, money.
How do they identify themselves?
With a tattoo.
Is there an initiation process to join the gang?
You could say that. They could go from you getting a shooting, or, you know, they do anything for these guys.
You said they get shootings. What do you mean by that?
If you get in a shooting, that's a definite brownie point.
The feds tweeted this photo showing bags and bricks of fentanyl, cocaine, heroin, and meth. Investigators say the street value is about $112 million right there.
Which I believe might lead to an attempt to set up a fascist dictatorship.
The plan as outlined to me was to form an organization of veterans, to use as a bluff or as a club at least, to intimidate the government and break down our democratic institutions. The upshot of the whole thing was that I was supposed to lead an organization of 500,000 men, which would be able to take over the functions of government.
And them saying that was one of their main goals, to be a part of this gang.
If you refuse to comply with their demands to join the gang, what happens?
They stop giving you backup, which is very dangerous. They ignore you. The banditos believe they can get away with anything, and you know they're not going to have any type of consequences for their actions.
Gangs aren't always involved in crime. She says some of them run legitimate businesses.
People have an idea or a stereotype of gang members when in reality that's not true.
Denner says gangs are spread out all across the valley and are in places you may never have thought possible.
Yesterday, I thought this was cute, but don't you think you guys are taking this a little far? Jasmine can leave whenever she wants, but Sammy Davis Jr., the pony, will have to be put down.
What?
He's your pony now. Your percentage was supposed to pay for his food and upkeep. Now he'll starve to death in a puddle of his own feces. Oh, come on, Mr. Wunsler.
I don't want to leave, Mr. Wunsler. Please, Daddy, don't make me leave.
Neither the FBI nor the LAPD released information on arrests.
There you have it. You know the name of the game. Your daughter chose me. Now we can handle this like some gentlemen, or we can get into some old gangster shit.
According to a research paper titled How Effective Are Police? The Problem of Clearance Rates and Criminal Accountability, published by the University of Utah, it concluded that of the crimes we know about, police are able to arrest individuals on average of 10% of the time for major crimes committed, and convict individuals less than 2% of the time. That is to say, police bring less than 2% of criminal defendants to criminal accountability for major crimes. The ranges of criminal accountability vary with the seriousness of the crime, with murder having the highest rate of accountability. At police's best, in some years, 40 to 52% of murderers are getting away with their crime. With rape, individuals are getting away with up to 90% of the time. This lack of police effectiveness means people are getting away with serious crime and victims are suffering as a result. So anyway, if in theory the police are there to protect you, then why are the numbers showing the opposite? According to the Los Angeles Police Department's own statistics, robberies have gone down in the last year. Yet their narrative is the opposite, calling for more funding in the police. Surprisingly, even the mayor of Los Angeles, Eric Garcetti, has noted that there is an all-time low in criminal activity. Yet, the police department in the Los Angeles County has a $3 billion budget and has never been historically defunded. So, acknowledging all of the aforementioned, killings committed by the Los Angeles Police Department had went up in 2021 since 2020 by 157%. And in retrospect, Los Angeles Police Department shootings have went up by 60%. If there is a rise in crime, we must acknowledge where the rise in crime is within the police. Once again, referencing the police's own statistics, of all the calls that they get throughout the last decade, the police have addressed the mental health and suicide crisis by a whopping 1.8%. I mean whopping sarcastically, because violent crimes are only addressed by 7.8%, meaning officer-initiated calls are the majority of the police's activity in Los Angeles County. Once again, referencing the police's own statistics, that shoplifting has gone down in the last year. But it was reported by the Los Angeles Times that the police is too busy doing damage control for their reputation. Inaccurate police accounts are sometimes due to the information fog of a fast-moving event, but critics say police press operations nearly always put forth a storyline that makes officers' actions appear justified. And when police spokespeople publicize the prior criminal history of people killed by law enforcement or call them gang members, it amounts to the insidious form of police abuse, they say. Many police officers feel misrepresented in the media, but unlike victims of police shootings, law enforcers have public funding at their disposal to generate favorable narratives about themselves. I don't quite understand how supporters of law enforcement can exactly support law enforcement with these contradictions in place without some sort of self-interest. Just 2 days before Christmas in 2021, police shot Valentina Oriana Peralta, a 14-year-old teenager in the Burlington store in North Hollywood, California, with her mother in the dressing room trying on dresses for her quinceañera. Since there is somehow a rise in crime due to the narrative of the police industrial complex in Los Angeles County, there must be a reason why they shot this 14-year-old girl. But alas, that is not the case. It was a stray bullet as a response to a completely different suspect who was unarmed himself. Yo, let's just take a moment to step back and reflect on the implications of what this means. This girl was completely innocent and didn't even know what was going on, yet she was shot and murdered and doesn't have a second chance at life, let alone any chance at life. Yet, the very state organ that she wanted to become a citizen of killed her extrajudicially. Law enforcement in the area are responding to this incident as a mistake, but this is not the case, especially factoring in the aforementioned 150% rate of police killings. Let us just be real here. The police do not understand how to use firearms correctly, and thus they breed a culture that does not value firearm safety. Officer Kim Potter of Brooklyn, who extrajudicially murdered Dante Wright, was convicted of a second-degree manslaughter charge. All because the 26-year police veteran didn't know the fucking difference between a firearm and a taser. This echoes quite loudly when police are responding to mass shootings, especially when they're unable to prevent mass shootings. And thus the police follow their responses with a self-congratulatory masturbation session. Meanwhile, Kyle Rittenhouse got away with murder. Let us just be abundantly clear. The police is there to be an organ of class rule for state and capitalists. They do not make the people safer, and they do not serve the people in any meaningful way unless they have some form of capital. When protesters are on the street advocating for police abolitionism, they are advocating against the police existence in the first place, because the police is meaningless in social betterment. This is class war, and the very definition of it. And thus, defenders of law enforcement should not be surprised that there is an outrage for police misconduct, on top of the fact that they should not be arguing in favor of civility in protesting. Because no such thing exists, nor shall it exist. The police have to be systematically abolished.
Things can go wrong or can be misinterpreted.
Wow.
Christina.
This is one of the wildest things I've ever seen. And then to see that...
No, they're taking the woman from the car. She's not involved. She just stopped to look.